Hello and welcome to the Sojourn Wealth Management Podcast. My name is Jeff Bronner and I'm joined by Andrew Kraft and Corey Akins. Today we're going to be continuing our look at investment basics, and our topic for today is annuities. Andrew, Corey, how are y'all doing?
Doing well. Loving this fall weather.
Yeah.
Other than college football.
Sometimes it's
got some
wonderful.
issues there, but
Sometimes it hurts.
I'm doing well as well as you can be, you know, I guess, after losing to Alabama. So, yeah. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well.
For another year, huh?
Yeah.
I'm doing well. Yeah, we'll save that. Keep it in the the pocket.
Humidor,
Yeah.
or whatever it's called.
All right, so annuities. Moving on from that bleak news. Let's talk about annuities. First thing is there's a lot of stigma that comes with annuities. And just at the top, we wanted to mention that, you know, with our practice, we're not dogmatic about any sort of investment strategy. And we want to consider what's works best for our clients. And so sometimes annuities are appropriate for that end. First, we wanted to talk through a brief history of annuities because it's got a fascinating history. Andrew, I know you've looked at a lot of different historical material, and you were talking a little bit before we started recording about Geoffrey Chaucer's annuity.
Yes, one of my favorite authors. No, actually, I think I've only read part of his Canterbury Tales, not even all of it. But so there's a professor up in Canada, Dr. Milewski, who's written quite a bit on annuities, and he just referenced as an example that Chaucer received a payment from King Edward III of a gallon of wine daily for his lifetime, starting at age 35. So I'm not sure if he drank all of the wine, but he had enough. I'll say
It doesn't
that.
mention what type of wine, like red,
It doesn't.
white.
No.
Okay.
But would that matter? I don't know.
I don't know. It might.
maybe it's different, and so mix it up. But and he also wrote on another king who just had a type of annuity type situation to help pay for a war with France. But yeah, it goes back. That right there goes back to like the 1350s or something like that. But even further than that, I believe.
Yeah, annuities are ancient. So there's an account in 2 Kings of Jehoiakim receiving an annuity from the king of Babylon. That's correct. This is 2 Kings 25:28, and he spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat above the seats of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiakim put off his prison garments, and every day of his life he dined regularly at the king's table. And for his allowance, a regular allowance was given him by the king, according to his daily needs, as long as he lived. So annuities go back thousands of years as far as an investment vehicle, financial vehicle goes.
Yeah.
And it speaks to some of it as we all need to be provided for throughout life, right? And so how can we guarantee that is kind of the point there, right? Like being paid out over the course of your life to meet your basic needs. Maybe not in Chaucer's case, or maybe in Chaucer's case.
But that's a great way to put it. Like having your needs met throughout life. And so some people who just categorically dismiss annuities, I think, just are missing the point. That, like you mentioned earlier, Jeff, we're not dogmatic. Sometimes it fits in people's plans. Sometimes it doesn't. We always want to help increase the odds of someone successfully reaching their goals. And if a certain investment vehicle or a strategy will help, we want to implement that. And providing for your basic needs is a good component.
So that's a good historical foundation. So let's just define what an annuity is for our audience so that they have a clearer understanding of what we're talking about, because there's a lot of complexity with this. So what is an annuity?
Yeah, I think when you hear the word annuity, you should think of the word guarantee. There's always some type of a guarantee, whether it's what you put into it or, like we mentioned, these lifetime payouts or some interest or whatever. And so to be or to have that guarantee, it must be issued by a insurance company. So at the basic level, an annuity is a contract with a life insurance company.
Yeah. And that question of what is it guaranteeing is also typically followed by what does that guarantee cost, right? And it can cost many things. It can cost time. It could cost actual dollars and cents. And so that's important. And I think that's where you're talking about maybe the stigma and things like that, where people receive or see an annuity and there's typically a higher cost or something like that on it. And that's where I think people can kind of get the ideas of like, oh, annuities are bad. Well, there are some out there that are bad, but yeah, I mean, I think you can, you can find some that meet the guarantee need for whether it be income, market, whatever. And we're going to talk through those risks.
Yeah. In the historical examples we see, it's seen as like an income stream is what's being guaranteed in those contexts. But there's other forms, and we'll talk more about those, like you mentioned, Corey. But also the part of the disconnect, or maybe the negative association with annuities, is a mismatch of need and product.
Absolutely.
So somebody gets put into an annuity that doesn't really fit their need. And because of that, they didn't understand it. And then they look up so many years later, there's dissatisfaction because the guarantee that they're paying for or what have you is not actually what they need to be guaranteed.
They paid out a cost to have the guarantee for something they ultimately didn't need. And then now they realize they didn't want it. Like I've run into that situation with...
Or there was no cost. They thought on the front end.
Yeah.
But like you said, Jeff, there's no need. But then ultimately, Corey, there's a cost, right?
Right.
You try and get the money out, and you're hit with this big charge.
I remember years ago, I was meeting with a client at the time, and he was telling me about this annuity that he had purchased, and that they had gone to a dinner, and they had presented some stuff to him, and they were like, we're going to give you a 30% bonus as soon as you put money in. And so he took that to mean, I'm going to put $100,000 in this annuity.
Now it's 130.
And now it's going to be $130,000.
That's nice.
And that would be nice, right? However, it was on the income base. Well, this client had two things there. Had no need for extra income, so he shouldn't have been doing an income annuity. And two, it was not explained to him, this is not actual value in the contract. It's what you're going to be, what you'll be paid out on. That's what that 30% is based on. So I get it,
Yeah. And that's where it gets to the complexity of what an annuity is. There are so many different features, so many different elements. And so we walk our clients through, hey, we need to understand what we're doing before we go into it. So you have a clear understanding of this is the need that this is satisfying.
Yeah.
So how do annuities work? So from a fundamental level?
So I guess in the that example of the income, you would basically just give a lump sum to an insurance company in exchange for payments for the rest of your life. So it's kind of, if you think of it, the opposite of basic life insurance. You give a monthly payment to a life insurance company while you're alive, and then when you pass away, a big lump sum is given to your beneficiary. So this is kind of like the opposite.
Yeah. And then typically it's seen in two phases. Accumulation phase, so you put that money in, it grows for however many years, and then at a certain point down the road, you annuitize it, and then those distributions start. So somebody who's 55, they put money in, it grows for 10 years, and then at the end of the 10th year, when they're, say, 65, they start the paycheck or the mailbox money, and then it distributes to them for life or a set period of time.
Yeah, and that distribution, and we might get into this more later, but just real quick, the distribution could be, like you said, annuitized, or it could just be withdrawals, which gives some more flexibility to the situation.
Yeah.
So one of the things that annuities are often found partnered with in conversation is how to manage risk. What do annuities do to help us manage risk?
Yeah, well, that guarantee is key. And so, are you trying to guarantee lifetime income? Well, then that's going to speak to longevity risk. Someone who happens to have, good genes, live a long time, right? Or possibly you're worried that interest rates are going to go down some more. And so you might want to lock up kind of like a CD, just a fixed annuity of a high interest rate.
Yeah. And so that strategy is awesome, especially in the last several years as interest rates have been so high. We've had clients who have had a lot of CD money, and we've even talked about using the fixed annuity strategy as a way, one, to have a high interest rate for longer and defer taxation. So you don't have to pay taxes in the year that the interest is earned, and you get to decide, after the 3 or 5 years or whatever it is, period, like what you want to do with it. And you kind of get to decide when you pay Uncle Sam on that.
And then another risk is market risk. Sometimes the annuity will guarantee your principal, but you can participate in movement to the market, and you can gain interest based on what the S&P 500 did, for example. And then credit risk.
Yeah. Yeah. So companies who, when you enter in, like what we've already talked about, that contract with the insurer, you want to make sure that company is strong.
Strong. Yeah.
Like you don't want to go with a company that there's risk of them not being a company anymore.
Yeah.
So that's important too.
And ratings agencies can give you some credit ratings, and then the overall Comdex score of a company can help you see the strength and stability. Yeah.
When somebody clicks on this episode and listens to it, they probably don't expect this to be such a literary episode. But one of my favorite quotes regarding annuities,
in addition to Chaucer,
is from Jane Austen, and this gets to the longevity risk. So the context of this quote is that this character, Fanny, is trying to convince her husband not to give his sisters and his stepmother an annuity. And she says that people always live forever when there is an annuity to be paid to them. So that's just getting to the point that what is being guaranteed in an income annuity is you're going to get paid this for the rest of your life, and it's going to protect you against if you outlive your assets and you drain your investment assets to zero, it's gone.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big issue today because people are living longer than they've ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go into retirement, it's not unfeasible that you could retire at 62 and be retired for 30 years, right? Before you pass away.
Right.
Or even longer for some people. So the assets that you save over the course of the accumulation phase, like your working years, then have to last you for those 30 or 40 years that you're going to be retired. That's the question that we help people answer. Am I going to be okay?
Yeah.
And this is a strategy in how we do that.
So let's get to the discussion of strategy. Taking the risk management components of this, you're already talking about one, Corey, with when we talk about how we use annuities in a holistic financial plan. Part of that's going to be let's protect against longevity so that regardless of how long you live, you're going to have this secure income. How else will this fit into an overall strategy?
Well, I think over that time period, you mentioned 30 years, right? So that's kind of a typical retirement time expectancy. Well, over that time period, the cost of goods and services will double. So you can't just keep your money at the bank in a savings account unless you have a whole lot. But I mean, you typically have to have some money pursuing more growth, address that, inflation risk. And so with some of these annuities, you can protect your capital, but also pursue a little bit more growth than it would otherwise be just like in a CD. Some of those are called fixed indexed annuities or registered index linked annuities, but different types can help you pursue more growth while you're protected on the downside.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the strategy there is that as we think about building out portfolios, like we're using this as a piece of the puzzle to help mitigate risk, guarantee some return, and then fit into the overall kind of pie chart.
Yeah. So peace, I think, is a great word. Like, because I don't think any of us have ever recommended all. It's always been like a portion to address one of these many risks.
That's exactly right. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That's part of the problem with going to the Calhoun's presentation and being sold something that can't, just by default, really can't be in somebody's best interest. If you're just being sold something.
You don't know enough in that exchange to be able to actually give it an informed recommendation for that individual or their family. Well, that's all really great information. I know that there is a lot to talk about when we discuss annuities. There's always opinions to be had, but I hope that this is helpful for our listeners to at least start the conversation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sojourn Wealth Management Podcast. This is a friendly reminder that all content in this podcast is intended for educational purposes alone. Nothing in this episode should be treated as tax, legal, or investment advice. We encourage you to consult your financial professional for any of those needs. The securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC, Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Kestra IS or Kestra AS are not affiliated with Sojourn Wealth Management, LLC.